Do better. Do better. Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Welcome to our first episode.
Let's go. Alhamdulillah.
So today we're going to be talking about religious centers and kind of how they correlate with judgment,
Sexual harassment.
and gender-related discrimination.
Yes.
So we'd kind of like to give a trigger warning right now. Some of the content that we are discussing today has to do with rape, has to do with sexual assault, and we understand that this could be extremely triggering for some of our viewers. So
Yeah, I'm
just
sure
let
a
me
lot
know.
of you guys can, I hope not, but can relate to a lot of the things that some of the women on this episode are going to be saying. And we just wanted to make it clear that at any moment, like, it's okay if you need to take a pause,
Yeah.
you need to take a breather, because we're really here to get to be blunt and raw with it and to get to the bottom of this, and then to also talk about some solutions that we can hopefully bring forth. And like what really got me motivated to like talk about this and to bring this up and have this as like our first episode is I remember after the Me Too movement, there has on Twitter there's been a couple of posts about sexual harassment in masjids and religious centers, and a lot of it had to do with Duxi reform as well. I remember a couple of years ago, was it 2017, there was a plethora of women and people talking about their experiences as children, their sexual assault and sexual harassment experiences as children in Duxis. And it's crazy because there's just so many, but nobody's talking about it, nobody's holding these men accountable. So I'm gonna show you guys a couple of those tweets that were tweeted on Twitter, and like you can read it for yourself. Like it's mind-boggling.
we also created a Google form where we had people anonymously share their stories of sexual harassment and sexual assault that they have personally just kind of gone through by growing up in Duxis.
And we're gonna also like show a couple of those on screen real quick. You guys can take a moment to pause and read them. We created a poll on Instagram and we asked our followers, have you or someone you know experienced sexual harassment in a religious center? And the poll said yes was 71% and no was 29%. 27 people voted yes and 11 people voted no. And if we like, and that's just out of like 30 plus people, right? The fact that 71% of that group of people can relate to this
It's crazy.
is fucking sick, bro. Like, why are we allowing this trauma?
I'm relating to sexual harassment in religious centers, and I had 35 people say yes, 10% say no. So that was 78% saying yes. And that's just that makes me so sad.
Yeah. And we have like completely different followers. So like it just shows it's not just a Somali or Muslim problem. It's a worldwide problem when it comes to religious centers and men taking advantage of their roles as someone who is trusted and running with that power, running with that ego. Like I don't understand. Like it's men.
Yeah.
You also asked your followers what was the
Yes. So I had asked them, have you or someone you know experienced gender-related discrimination in a religious center? So I had 83% say yes, 17% say no.
Wow.
Now, numbers-wise, that was 38 people saying yes, they have experienced gender-related discrimination, 8 people saying no. That is nearly 40 people. 40 people stating that they've been made to feel out of place, that they've been discriminated against, that they have been made to feel small, all because they're most likely a woman in their masjid, in their mosque, in their church, in their synagogue. Like, it's crazy.
It's
It's
crazy.
a crime to be a woman.
It
Like,
is. Wallahi, it is, bro.
If we gonna change something, first of all, can we have our side be bigger? I'm kind of tired because I be in there trying to pray, and there's this habit of literally half on top of me trying to pray.
Sitting on my lap.
That's one thing to start
Why are
off
her
with.
socks in my nostrils? That's what I want to know. Like, come on.
Yeah.
You can tell the difference between how they designed the sides of the masjid. The male side of our mosque had a wudu area. The woman side of the mosque had a 2-inch broken down sink that we use to make wudu. And it's like, let's be realistic now. Just because women are like, they get more ajr from praying at home and stuff, that does not mean that we're not allowed to be at a mosque.
And the fact that that hadith or that idea exists, I'm not a person who knows the deen or the religion, so I don't have like much backing on that. But I swear to God, I'm gonna challenge that, because there's no way in hell. There's no way in hell that seems like that idea came from a sheikh someday who was like, there's just too many women in here, and I just need them not to be here. And then he just like started, and he was like, you know what, ladies,
You gonna get a few extra brownie points for going
legit,
home.
The thing is,
there's something
it's
about
a
that.
valid
that I don't
hadith,
agree.
but it was not. Men ran with it.
They
was
use it, they
not-
manipulate
It was,
it.
The way
yeah,
they run with
manipulated
everything
it.
else.
Yeah, it was not meant to be in a way where they make the women's areas feel unsafe,
Be in the closet.
unclean. Yeah, very like uncomfortable, very like not spacious at all whatsoever. It was not meant to be like that. It was just to say like, you know, you have barakah, you get blessings from being around your children, being around your family, you know, staying at home, but coming to the mosque, it's your safe place as well.
So I get what you're saying. So like, it's meant to make it for the women to not to be a burden. Like, oh, you don't have to get out of your way to go to the
leave.
masjid.
Yeah.
But they
Well,
made
they
it to
took
be
it as
like,
oh,
you're not gonna
don't
be here.
come here. You ain't like this ain't for you. This for us.
if women don't have access to khutbah, if they don't have visual access to where the sheikh is and like seeing him and seeing the lecture, you would think that more money would then be invested in the women's section to have better TVs, to have better speakers, because we're already a lot of the times excluded from the experience. We're all the way in the back in like a 10 by 10 space, cramped, not to mention the
With
women.
all the kids.
Not
With
women,
all
the women
the
have the
kids.
kids. Oh my God, the chair. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say just now, right? Because when women are showing up, or when families are going as a unit, okay, these men are not keeping the kids. The kids are always with the women. So not only are the women in that section, but it's all the kids. So I just don't understand why
It doesn't add up.
it at least be half and half.
Yeah.
Because
And-
especially in our community, you know, they'd be 7 kids.
Yeah. Well, mashallah.
Mashallah.
I guess my relationship has always been like murky with masajids or like religious centers. I mean, it's not a surprise to any of us on like where the women's section is, or like the state of the women's section, or the space that we are allowed in our own masajids. It's always like an afterthought, or it's always like tucked in, sometimes in an actual closet. So it's always been, I don't know, I've always felt in masajids or duxis that I don't belong, or like I am there and they like they really have to go out of their way to make space for me. Like, it's something that I should really be grateful for, that I'm actually in the masajid, because like out of the kindness of their heart, they're like, you know what, we'll give them a closet, they can be in the closet.
Personally, it's really hard finding, and I mean, it's the truth, it's sad to say, it's really hard finding a masjid that feels like a home for me, because I just feel so excluded from the experience. I can't see anything, I can hardly hear anything. Why do I want to like be there other than just being there for salat and doing like my thing?
Yeah.
It's like hard being there for lectures, for anything beneficial, because I feel like a second-class citizen.
Wallahi, no,
yeah.
second-class citizen. Oh my God.
Woo!
It's just like in religious centers, and more mainly, I think in Somali
Yes.
religious centers, the men's side versus the women's side is two different worlds. Like literally, like the men's side is twice as big, twice as pretty,
If not 5 times.
5 times as big, 5 times as pretty, and the women's side is like janky. The women's bathroom is janky. Like I remember, like in masjids that like construction is going on. It's always, yeah, we're fixing the men's bathroom. Yeah, we're doing this for the men's side, this side, this side, and the women's side is like
falling apart.
It looks like a the woman's like a haunted house. Like it's scary when the lights are up. It's scary in there, and it's like literally, I don't understand because like the men's side. Okay, I remember growing up in my Dixie, like they had das everywhere, right? Das are curtains, and they were the really pretty fancy ones. And it's always the men's side that are getting the new ones every single time, and then they're all matching. They're all the same color, and then the women's side is all different curtains from old places, and it's just like. And I used to ask, why is the women's side not as kept up and as pretty? And they're like, oh, there's no answer. It's for the men. That was literally the answer.
Right.
Their side's more important. It's for the men. There was no other answer. I think there was another masjid that I remember where the women's side's on the top level, but it's cut in a way where like they can see the men's side and they can look down to the men's side so that they can see the sheikh or whatever speaking.
That's how the one in Ohio I'm talking about is like set
yeah,
too. So
exactly.
maybe there's more, and they're doing
exactly.
it right.
And that's a great idea. And if the excuse is we can't afford construction, this that, but bro, like why are you always constructioning the men's side? Like,
there's always this money for renovation
for the men's side. There's always money for men, but not for women. And it's usually the women who are putting down this money.
No, yeah. And that's a whole nother topic. But a lot of the times, it's also women who work in the masjid who are pushing for these nicer things to go to the men as well.
Yeah, because women are taught to like please men. Like, so we're pleasing these men so much that we're forgetting ourselves and our sisters and daughters. You know what I'm saying? They're like, literally, we're so conditioned to get the food out to the men first. Get everything. Get the nice stuff. With everything is always men first.
Yeah, Ramadan.
Ramadan, bro. Everything is men first, bro.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Do better.
Do better.
Do better.
At the Duxies that I went to, I've noticed a pattern. They would always teach how to memorize the Quran, which is a great thing, and hijab. And I personally got tired of hearing about the hijab because, in my opinion, everyone knows what the hijab is. Everyone knows what it means to them. But if that's the only thing I'm hearing, it makes me feel like, is that all I am? Just a piece of cloth. But when I would speak to my peers about what they learned, they would learn a lot. They would learn fiqh, seerah, a lot of concept that the religion would bring up. But on our end, whenever there would be like an event or a halaqah, I would just hear about the hijab.
When they're having larger events for women, for sisters, they always have to do with hijab.
Yeah.
With marriage.
Oh my God.
With how women hold roles
within society.
Yeah, that are in support of other people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
Like how to be a mother, how to be a wife,
how to cater to others,
how to be like yeah. And it's like you see all this programming that guys get, and it's so much more disciplined in actual Islamic theology.
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't we getting that programming?
Exactly. I don't know, because they're teaching us our place in a sense. They're teaching us the only thing we need to know is how to be a mother, how to be a wife, and that's it. And that's all that matters. How to obey and submit. That's all we learn.
I hate that word. Submit? Yeah. I mean, of course there's a whole idea of submitting to God.
That's
and
different.
Let me clarify, that's not why I don't like that word. I don't like that word in relation to submitting to men.
Yes.
I think that's
to other human beings.
To other humans altogether. And I think that's a theme that gets brought up a lot sometimes.
Exactly.
For so long, I was like, I felt like a second-class citizen. You know what I mean? Like in the mosque, you come in, they'd have like halaqah days where they ask men and women questions. But the men would take up the entire time, and the women are just zip. And they'll be like, oh, the women have to hide behind the curtain to speak. Like, it's like you feel embarrassed to want to be a part of Islam. You feel embarrassed that you're even taking up their time. Like, you know what I mean?
Or like ashamed that or like you're just blamed for being a woman, so you're trying to take as little
attention as possible. Like, make yourself so small. And it wasn't until I had a woman, Ma'alan, that allowed me to bloom and become like the strong person that I am today, that I realized how much of a lack of women ma'alins there are in not only like in like Minnesota, but in like in general. Like they don't raise us to be teachers, they raise us to be followers. You learn, move on. If you look at halaqah now, it's like 90% men, maybe like 5-6 women, you know, because it's not centered to include women.
Duxi
was always very positive. I enjoyed learning at the masjid. I had the most amazing teachers, especially like from a young age. I was always very shy, so I used the deen to kind of help me. Like if I was ever frustrated, I would read Quran. If I was ever like stuck in like a position that I couldn't get myself out of, I would turn to the Quran. I would turn to like my ma'alins, stuff like that. But also it was very like tough when it comes to being a Muslim woman, because our voice isn't as heard as Muslim men, especially when it comes to like renovating the mosque, or when it would come to like activities that the girls wanted to do, things like that.
Like, a lot of these messages are like, where are the youth? Where are the youth? My nigga, you kicked them all out. You kicked them all out.
Yeah.
You traumatized them. You've made them feel excluded. You made them feel like they're not Muslim, first of all. And now you're asking where are the youth, just because the youth are not submitting to your overly controlling ways. Like,
it's a conversation that we've had with peers. And it's just, there's this common theme of not feeling comfortable at the masjid.
Yeah.
And it's a theme I'm also hearing from men, because it's like, you want to enter into a masjid, right? The house of God, and you want to feel loved. You want to come as you are. You want to feel like it's a place where there is forgiveness happening, where there's learning happening. And people are being reprimanded for the smallest thing. Their haircut, their hair being too long, if they're wearing socks or not, if their hijab is too small. It's like, really?
And even if their hijab is huge, they're still being reprimanded for being a woman because you have boobs. Like, I'm wearing the biggest hijab, but I got boobs, and I'm still in trouble.
It's because you're taking up space.
Can I not exist?
Apparently not.
I can't exist, wallahi. And the whole thing about like long hair for men and all this stuff, it's self-hate, because you hate your black hair. That's why you're telling these little boys to cut off their hair and make it short, because Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had long hair. It's sunnah to grow out your hair, but just because it's black and it grows out this way and not this way, you're telling him you're dirty and stop trying to act black when, excuse me, we are black. What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
What do you want these guys to do?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
And it's like, if we're being honest, if you have come into a masjid, you're there to worship God, and you're being met with all of this judgment, it's like, who wants to go back? I'm being honest. Like, it's already so easy to get distracted in this world, and I'm not making excuses for not going to the masjid or like, you know, trying to really better your relationship with God. But it's like, you see the youth and you see that they're actually trying to go, and they're trying to plant roots in their masjid. And then it's like, you're just pushing them out. Like, you guys are pushing the youth out.
Yeah. You guys need to do better.
Yeah.
The imams, the ma'alins, the sheikhs, the pastors and priests, every religious center, you guys need to do better.
And when you do better for the youth, you make sure you put extra time in doing better for the women.
Extremely predominantly white really started to make me feel like somewhere I wasn't welcome. It made me feel a lot less like this is a house of God and more this is a political center now. They took that opportunity more to be like, oh, the people of the world will try and tell you that you have to be woke, but that's not true. You should stand against abortion. We should vote against abortion. We should not be out there looting and rioting. And I'm like, are we going to talk about the innocent black man that they killed just once? Are we going to mention that even one time? No? All right. So my family actually ended up switching churches, like, entirely. We stopped going.
Growing up in Dixie, it's there would be multiple ma'alins that would know that I was a troublemaker, because I was definitely a troublemaker. I knew I caused trouble when I was a kid. And they would all try to find ways to make me conform or submit. That word pisses me off. And I even heard ma'alins use it before, like, why would you not submit? And it never made sense to me, because it's like, bro, I'm a kid. What do you want from me? Yeah. I'm just here to kasabah what I'm supposed to be doing, like recite what I need to be reciting and get back home. But instead, it's like they'll form up random punishments for me, where it's like, you have to stay after hours. Keep in mind, why am I staying after hours without a guardian?
Exactly.
As a child.
Oh, I was asked to stay after as a punishment, And that is exactly the segue that leads into sexual abuse.
Mm-hmm.
That's like exactly what it is. And how do you turn around and be like, oh, they took advantage of me when you're already the troublemaker? Why would they believe you? Like,
yeah, I don't think it has. Every teacher that I've had, I've always argued with. Like, I would genuinely always argue with them. They, after like we would finish the Quran portion of everything, and we'd sit down behind and have like just a little lecture session. I would ask questions, and they'd answer my questions, but the answers would never satisfy me. And when I would disagree with something they would said, I would always be told like, why are you arguing with me? Luckily, it never affected my self-esteem because my mom was there. She is a very big factor in my life. And so anytime I'd have issues with the Ma'alins or anything, she would be my number one guard dog. Like, she'd yell at them. And so that's why it never really affected my personality or made me change in any way. But it did change in the sense of I have a negative connotation on the Islamic centers or just people who come together to try to preach about Islam, because it's always like, are you truly preaching about this beautiful religion, or are you trying to talk about something else that you personally are trying to benefit from? I have a little sister, she's very young. When I tell you, me and my mom would go bicker. I'm very confrontational, so me and my mom would bicker, and I'd like literally be yelling in her ear like, this is what I went through. She will not be going through that. And so now it's like, at the age of like, well, when she was 8, 9, we took her out of Dixie, and so she hasn't gone back since. Everything is homeschooled, and so there's also like another problem of like, is she like too sheltered now?
Is she gonna miss
so
something?
is she missing out on the experience? Because I love Dixie. I love going to Dixie for like my peers. When I tell you, we'd be fighting in the bathroom. There would be so many things. So it's like now it's like we're at that little bridgeway of like, now that she's growing up and she's hit puberty and all of that, is she missing out? Is there things that she could be learning outside of us?
Well, I feel like our generation was more like, we were taught to be like, hey, if your mom says something, automatically follow it. It doesn't matter if he's right or wrong, or if you believe it's wrong, come to us, talk to us about it. We can talk about it at home, but in public, don't let them like feel like you think they're wrong, because it's shaming them. How is calling someone out on their like behavior shaming them?
I think a safer space that I would have personally enjoyed, number one, if there was a female teacher.
In the Catholic Church, you have the priest, and there has never been a female priest. There has never been a female pope or a female bishop, and that's like Catholic doctrine. Like for them, it's like, that's not an optional thing. It's not like, oh, it hasn't happened yet, it's never going to happen. It's not a thing that we're going to do.
The sheikhs and my ma'alims have always been men. And I feel like the fact that that's always been the case showcases who holds the knowledge in the masajid and who should be listened to.
Why aren't these prominent, educated sheikhs also lecturing? Why aren't they lecturing to men?
That's a good question.
Yep, when you like see people like Yasmin Mujahid, when you see people like Aisha Wazwaz, when you see these women who are just as educated in fiqh and all of these things, if not more, like they're only being like booked, and they're only being booked for women and only sister only events. Why can't they spread their knowledge to men as well?
Yeah, like I'm thinking of like at the Yuvim al-Maghrib, like when Yasmin Mujahid did come, usually when these other guys come, it's like 50-50, you know, women, 50 men that are there that buy the tickets and everything.
Yeah.
But the day Yasmin Mujahid was teaching, I swear it was like 7% men and then 90-some% women. And like, why is that? And I think that kind of ties into the fact that men cannot take knowledge from women because they don't deem it as valuable, or they can't even listen to it because something is subconsciously making them ignore it somehow. I think that's where that ties into a little bit too.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it kind of goes back full circle to who has historically held these kinds of positions. So now when you see a woman step up who is credible, who is knowledgeable, it's like, whoa, like, you have knowledge when like,
you have knowledge, and I'm gonna need a man say that to me again for me to understand it.
For it to make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't understand what you're saying, even though we're speaking the same language.
Which goes into mansplaining a little
Yeah.
bit.
Pastor said that you as like a young girl,
Our
his
temptation.
temptation
Mm-hmm.
kind of takes away from the fact that like
You as a
Sexual
grown
assault
man,
is a person who's
And
assaulting
not
the
even
person.
that, you are somebody who can be a temptation, but you're also not enough to be able to take that position.
Right.
So it's like, oh, you can't speak with me about
I
what's
can
the
affect
issue.
your position,
Yeah.
but I can't hold it.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the reason, like going back to the question, that's the reason that so many of the times there's so many verses that have been misconstrued, not only in the Quran but like hadith and everything, where they take it as like a negative for women. When Islam has granted us so much, Islam is beautiful for women. We have so much freedom, so much like that's been like given to us, but it's taken away from us in a means of standing up for Somali culture. Let's be real. Somali culture does not stand up for women the same way Islam does. When it comes to women being tested to become teachers, oh my God, it's like you have to be like perfect.
You have to jump
every
hurdles.
ayah of the Quran, you have to have it memorized in your blood, everything. While the men, oh, you know, alhamdulillah, come on, let's
One
go.
thing to piggyback in competitions, back in the day when you would hear like a girl reciting the Quran and her voice is beautiful, she'd automatically be told, don't
beautify
You're a
your
woman.
voice.
Don't let men hear the way you speak. Don't speak out too loud. Like you don't need to be reciting that beautifully. But it's like I'm trying to recite the Quran the way it's meant to be recited.
Yeah.
But bro, I spoke. You ain't never speak to a woman before?
Like, are you dumb?
Not even that.
You ain't never heard a woman? Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
Even like
You got
the
it.
way that we dress in the mosque, like you were speaking about, jilbabs, everything loose. You can't hide the fact that you're curvy if you're curvy.
I'm a woman. Like, this is my body.
I
My
literally
body.
made that point before. Y'all know what I'm talking about when I say we used to wear the hijab and we'd have our hands up right here.
To cover.
It's not making it more
Noticeable.
prominent that I have
No,
boobs.
literally like this, so that we feel like you know what I mean, not noticeable. To make it not noticeable, it's like, why do we have to hide so much? We're already wearing these gigantic, like 2.5 yards hijabs, covering ourselves top to bottom, toes covered, socks. Bro, even my masjid would go to the point you have to wear socks. You can't come to the masjid with your feet open. Things
I would
like
have
that.
on my island, if he would see my ankles, he'd grab his
Yeah.
ruler and just flick it into my ankles.
It's
I'd be
that
like,
going,
bruh.
it goes to there, and then it's like, did you guys forget how the Prophet said that men are supposed to lower their gaze before their women were told to cover? So it's like, you guys need to be working with us, but now it seems like you're just trying to degrade us for your own benefit.
For sure. I don't know what girl hasn't. Where do I even start? I have personally always been a bigger girl, bigger chest. You know, I've just been well endowed my whole life. And so I used to wear the hijab when I was younger, like the long ones. And I know every girl knows what I'm talking about when I say they would literally wear the hijab and like their arms would be like this, or like they walk around like this. And I hated that. And so it never made sense to me, because it's like, when you hit puberty as a kid, you're trying to figure out how to walk in this new body, how to talk in this new body, how to work with these new features you have, but everyone else is focused on, ooh, titties, ass, curves. And it's like, let me figure out what the hell this is first, and then we can get to that part. But growing up, I remember I would hit, before even puberty, I was a chubby kid. And so the teachers would be like, oh, don't wear a jacket on top of your hijab, or don't wear smaller hijabs, and make me like wear, not make me, but like they make comments that would constantly like stick in my head, where like wear bigger hijabs, or again, do the hand gestures. And there would be comments like, oh, like she has big boobs in like our language, or she's like a thick girl for her age, or she's well built. And keep in mind, like, I'm 12, 13, 14, you know you have big breasts. Why are you wearing a jacket that's so tight? Or you know the boys are looking at you. Why are you doing that? Or when I'm walking around, like let's say to just go grab a snack or whatever, like I'd get stares. Like the stares would be the biggest thing.
I always felt like I had to be something or someone else. Like who I was not a person who was welcome.
You were at home.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, you know what? Not that Filson's not coming to Duxie. Like, you have to be a different person to go to Duxie. I remember like we would wear like jilbab, and just like dress way different and be different from who we were.
And you were comfortable with.
Yeah, like, and even like just thinking back, all my ma'alims were men, and all like the only relationship I had with the ma'alim would just be like, yeah, cool, this is my ashir. Because I just come, I read my stuff, then I'm done. Like,
there's so much fear there. There's so much fear of moving past like those boundaries, because it's like, not only do your parents warn you like, oh, be aware, he's a man, anything could happen, they also tell you, oh, whatever he says, do it. So it's like, where, like, what do you do?
I've always been policed. Always. There's never been a masajid that I've been into and not have be told like what I was wearing was inappropriate, what I was wearing was too short, or you should like next time wear socks so your toes don't show, you should do this, you should do that. I've always been policed, never been masajid.
without fail. And personally, this is like a sick or something that I like to do. I like to go to masajids. I like to have shorter skirts when I go to masajids. I like to have shorter hijabs when I go to the masajid, just to make the people in the masajids uncomfortable. May not be right, but it's what I like to do, because I think it's a sick obsession that women and sheikhs and everybody in the masajid has. Like, folks are hyper focused on how we show up and how our bodies are when we are at the masajid, instead of talking about sexual assault, talking about drugs, talking about addiction.
And is that they don't believe that they would ever take advantage of their children. So like, I know y'all felt it. If you're doing anything wrong, beat him. If he's not passing, beat him. Keep him afterwards. He can stay here all night. I'll come back tomorrow.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Like the trust and the respect that
The
they
trust
have
that they have for them, they would literally be like, you could take him home.
Take them
Take
home.
him
and
home,
they'd
bring
be
him
cool
back
with it.
tomorrow, and they'd be cool because they
Yeah.
respect them so much. And I feel like that has been one of the main reasons that sexual assault has been running rampant in our society.
But ask yourself, do you really think your parents didn't go through the same stuff?
Oh,
Your
for
mom-
sure.
They definitely
They
would
definitely
do it.
did.
They